We live from New Delhi, watching TT India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next hour. External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar slams double standard on conflicts at G20 foreign ministers meet, says threatening development cannot facilitate peace, also calls for no accommodation to terrorism. Indian Air Force to bid farewell to the longest-serving aircraft MiG-21 with a ceremonial fly-past in Chandigarh. Air Chief Marshal A.P. Singh will fly the last sortie of the MiG-21 Bison aircraft. US President Trump announces 100% tariff on pharmaceutical products from the 1st of October, also imposes tariffs on trucks, home renovation materials. And in Asia Cup, India to take on Sri Lanka in the last Super 4 round in Dubai today. Already qualified India to face Pakistan in the final on Sunday for the first time in 17 years. And on to the details now. External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar called for zero tolerance towards terrorism and urged the international community to avoid any form of accommodation or indifference to terrorist activities.
A persistent threat to development is that perennial disruptor of peace, terrorism. It is imperative that the world display neither tolerance nor accommodation to terrorist activities. Given the extensive networking among terrorists, those who act against them on any front actually render a larger service to the international community as a whole.
While speaking at the G20 foreign ministers meeting in New York on the sidelines of the UNGA, External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar referred to other ongoing conflicts like Ukraine and Gaza. Jaishankar said that such geopolitical tensions directly impact global energy, food and fertilizer security, especially in the global south.
Our focus today is on the correlation between international peace and global development. In recent times, that is well established as both deteriorated in parallel. The costs, especially to the global south, in terms of energy, food and fertilizer security, were starkly demonstrated by ongoing conflicts, particularly in Ukraine and Gaza. Apart from jeopardizing supplies and logistics, access and costs themselves became pressure points on nations. Double standards are clearly in evidence.
He further said that the global peace and development have seen parallel deterioration in recent times.
Peace can certainly enable development, but by threatening development, we cannot facilitate peace. Making energy and other essentials more uncertain in an economically fragile situation helps no one. Therefore, the way out is to move the needle towards dialogue and diplomacy, not in the opposite direction towards further complications.
And for more, we have Akshay Dongre joining us from New Delhi. Well, Akshay, Dr. Jaishankar called for zero tolerance towards terrorism, aligning with India's broader diplomatic strategy, especially amidst its growing leadership role in the global south and forums like the G20. Your take?
Well, the take is quite clearly Pakshi, and Dr. Jaishankar has once again clearly, talked about terrorism, especially at a time when Donald Trump is meeting with the leadership of Pakistan. That is one of the biggest harborer and enabler of terrorism, not only in the region, but the entire world. So that message also went quite clear. That, irrespective of the kind of ties that Pakistan is making because of its geopolitical advantages, being in a disturbed region and in fact being the enabler of the disturbance in the South Asian region as well as in the West Asian region. One thing has become very clear, that the world's largest democracy is just not going to take any kind of terrorist activities lightly, and it's going to be vocal about them. It's going to unite the world, and even at the highest forums of the world, it's going to expose the hypocrisy of the not only the terrorist organizations and the threats that they have towards modern civilization and society, but also the enablers and harborers of terrorism. That message has gone quite clearly to the top leadership of the US. That is also trying to restore ties with India in the recent days. So one message is very clear, that any kind of, and we have said it in the recent action against terrorism, that any kind of terror activities will be considered an act of war, because they are, in a way, an act of war against civilization, against peace. The world has to unite against this menace that is absolutely unnecessary at any given stage of time, for the development of humanity. It's just a blackmail tactic. It's a tactic, made by weak nations. It's a tactic made by cowardly organizations. That is a message that has been given at the UNGA by the Foreign Minister of India.
All right. Also, Akshay, Dr. Jaishankar clearly spoke about the double standards and linked conflicts like Ukraine and Gaza to global peace, energy and food security. How do you see India balancing its traditional non-aligned stance with increasing global advocacy on such issues on the global platform?
Well, certainly one thing is quite clear is, once there is food security, the first countries to get hit are the countries that are not adequately, equipped to grow their own, sort of a requirement of grains and other food stocks. It can happen for multiple reasons. It can happen because of the land not being fertile enough in certain countries, or the climate not being fertile, climate not be suitable enough for certain grains. So they usually rely on others. These are smaller countries. These are underdeveloped or developing countries, mostly in Africa, South Asia, Southeast Asia, and other parts of the world. So they are the countries that get hit first. Any kind of blockade to supply lines, these countries get their share of supplies diverted to the other richer countries because they are willing to pay more. So obviously conflict does impact the global south, especially the countries at the bottom of the development and the economical chart. We have to be vocal for them as well, because those are the nations that need the help of countries and of the global south, especially at the international forums. That is a consistent stand that India has been making, and we have been talking about diplomacy and dialogue to also ensure that the world starts to developing in a positive direction, rather than going into development of only weapons and things that can blow up. That has been the consistent stand, and once again has been reiterated at the UN by the Foreign Minister. Back to you, Dipakshi.
All right, Akshay, thank you so much for all those details. And moving on, in continuation of India's humanitarian assistance, a fresh consignment of humanitarian aid for Afghanistan following last month's devastating earthquake has reached Kabul via Chabahar. The Ministry of External Affairs said that the latest shipment, consisting of 3 container loads of relief materials, had arrived in the Afghan's capital via the Chabahar port and was handed over to the authorities. Now, the consignment includes a wide range of essential items such as food supplies, water purifiers, among other essential goods. This is the 3rd batch of Indian assistance sent to support those affected by the earthquake. The 6.0 magnitude tremor, which struck on August 31st, claimed nearly 2,200 lives and displaced more than 23,000 people, making it one of the deadliest quakes to hit Afghanistan in recent decades. And after 6 decades in the skies, the Indian Air Force is set to retire the last 2 squadrons of the iconic MiG-21 fighter jets, with a ceremonial farewell scheduled for September 26th at Chandigarh. For decades, this aircraft was the backbone of India's aerial defense, serving in key conflicts from 1971 to the Balakot operations. An Indian Air Force tribute describes the aircraft as not just a fighter, but a symbol of resilience, highlighting the deep connection between the machine and the personnel who flew and maintained it. Now, the farewell marks an emotional moment as the jet flies into the sunset, but the aircraft will not be sent to the scrapyard. As its engines fall silent, the MiG-21's legacy will be etched forever in the history of Indian Air Force.
Swift, fearless, enduring. Every mission, every landing. A chapter of courage written into history. A legend bows out, saluted by generations. The MiG-21 departs, but its legacy will always remain.
Well, as we told you, after 6 decades in the skies, the Indian Air Force is set to retire the last 2 squadrons of its iconic MiG-21 fighter jets with a ceremonial farewell today scheduled for today, that is September 26th at Chandigarh. And for decades, this aircraft was the backbone of India's aerial defense, now serving in key conflicts from 1971 to the Balakot operations. An Indian Air Force tribute describes the aircraft as not just a fighter but a symbol of resilience, highlighting the deep connection between the machine and the personnel who flew and maintained it. Also, the farewell marks an emotional moment as the jet flies into the sunset, but the aircraft will not be sent to the scrapyard as its engines fall silent today. The MiG-21's legacy will be etched forever in the history of Indian Air Force. And in Chandigarh later today, MiG-21 to retire after over 6 decades of service. Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will be present at the occasion. And for more, we have Vishal Baristo joining us on the phone line from Chandigarh on this. Well, Vishal, an emotional moment today for the country and India's defence at large. Tell us what all is planned for the day and about the entire event.
Well, a very good morning to you. It's a very emotional and historic moment as far as the Indian Air Force is concerned, because the powerhouse of the Indian Air Force, that is MiG-21, would be to the Indian Air Force, to the country. It has served the country for many, many decades. It has made India proud in 1965 war, 1971 war against Pakistan, both wars against Pakistan, and again Kargil in 1999, also against Pakistan, and in 2019, MiG-21 also has the credit of shooting down F-16 of America that was working for the Pakistan Air Force. So indeed, quite an emotional day today. All the 3 chiefs, along with the Chief of Defence Staff, General Anil Chauhan, who has been given an extension, would also be a part of the event, and then the Defence Minister would be meeting the veterans. We also have veterans like Commodore Surinder Tyagi, who has the distinction of more than 6,000 hours of more than 6,000 sorties and more than 4,000 hours of flying. And he is the man of the moment, and today we would shortly give his interview to the viewers. And definitely MiG-21 has done a great service to the nation.
Right, Vishal, as we know, 62 years in service and a grand farewell ceremony today. Another important thing which the viewers would also like to know, Vishal, what happens to the jet after this, as the aircraft will not be sent to the scrapyard?
Well, it would be there as a trophy. It would there as a souvenir at the important installations, and it would go down to the history of annals of history of the Indian Air Force as one of the greatest aircraft India has ever had. And let me also tell you that it would be replaced by a lot many new versions, especially the Tejas Mark 1 would be replacing this MiG-21 that has served the country for many, many years. And it's been a wonderful service of MiG-21, but definitely it's been time for long that it should be replaced by more advanced aircraft, and the day is finally today, because in the 60s it was first inducted into the Indian Air Force, and it was Chandigarh only, and from Chandigarh it is bidding farewell to the country.
All right, the iconic jet set to fly into the sunset today. Thank you so much, Vishal. We'll keep taking more updates throughout the day today. Thank you so much for all those details. And India's Defence Ministry on Thursday signed a deal with Hindustan Aeronautics Limited to buy light combat aircraft for the Indian Air Force. The deal, worth around $7 billion, would fetch the Air Force 97 single-engine multi-role Tejas Mark 1A fighter jets, with deliveries to begin from 2027. Here are the details.
In a landmark move to boost India's self-reliance in air warfare capability, India's Defence Ministry signed a contract with public sector defence major Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, or HAL, on Thursday, worth around $7 billion for domestic production of 97 light combat aircraft Mk1A, also known as Tejas. The deal entails manufacturing of 68 fighters and 29 twin-seaters, the deliveries of which will begin in 2027-28 and completed over 6 years. Dubbing the move as a major boost for the government's Atmanirbhar Bharat, or Self-Reliant India initiative, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh hailed the development on social media. He posted on X saying, "The supply of these aircraft by HAL would enhance operational capability of the Indian Air Force to continue their unhindered operations and strengthen defence preparedness of the country. This contract reflects the trust and confidence of the government and the armed forces in the indigenously developed aircraft Tejas, which will be the mainstay of the IAF in the years to come." India's homegrown light combat aircraft was conceived in the 80s for replacing the aging Soviet-era MiG-21 and Su-7 fleets. The program got a boost during the 90s, and its Technology Demonstrator 1 version took to the skies in 2001. The second series production, or SP2, was given initial operational clearance in 2016, and the Indian Air Force currently has 2 squadrons of the Tejas Mk1 version. The latest contract is for 97 Mk1A version, which is more advanced. There will be 67 additional items incorporated over and above the 2021 Mk1A contract. It will be integrated with advanced indigenously developed systems. Mk1A will have the Uttam Active Electronically Scanned Array radar, Swayam Raksha Kavach and control surface actuators. Mk1A will have over 64% indigenous content. 97 aircraft contract comprises 68 fighters and 29 twin-seaters, along with associated equipment. Delivery of the aircraft will start during 2027-28 and will be completed within 6 years. The project is being supported by a robust vendor base of nearly 105 Indian companies. The production is expected to generate around 11,750 direct and indirect jobs each year for 6 years. The latest Tejas contract has been inked at a time when Friday will see the IAF retiring its last 2 squadrons of the MiG-21 fighters in an elaborate ceremony in Chandigarh. This will bring India's effective squadron strength down to 29. Earlier in April this year, a multi-billion-dollar deal to buy 26 Dassault Rafale M fighter jets for the Indian Navy was also signed by India to add to 36 Rafales, which have already been inducted into the Air Force. India's defense requirements, particularly in the aerial domain, have assumed an added sense of urgency since the nation's cross-border strikes against Pakistan's terror infrastructure during Operation Sindoor in May this year, following the Pahalgam terror attack. Gautam Roy's report for DD India.
And still to come in DD India News Hour. Trump says he held good talks on Gaza, including with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. US President escalates legal retribution campaign as ex-FBI Director James Comey indicted. And Trump understands risks of annexation in West Bank.
issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Moving on, US President Donald Trump on Thursday announced new tariffs on pharmaceuticals, big rig trucks, home renovation fixtures and furniture. Trump in a social media post stated that the US will be imposing a 100% tariff on any branded or patented pharmaceutical product unless the company is building their pharmaceutical manufacturing plant in America. He added there will therefore be no tariff on these pharmaceutical products if construction has started. Now, the announcement also covers other imports, including a 50% tariff on kitchen cabinets, 30% to upholstered furniture and 25% to heavy trucks. The new tariff rates will be implemented from the 1st of October. Also, US President said that the United States would give proceeds from tariff revenues to the farmers.
And we're going to take some of that tariff money that we made, we're going to give it to our farmers, who are, for a little while, going to be hurt until it kicks in. The tariffs kick into their benefit. So we're going to make sure that our farmers are in great shape because we're taking in a lot of money. We're finding, the other day, it was very interesting, they found $31 billion.
Now, Canada has signed a bilateral free trade agreement with Indonesia, which aims to eliminate or reduce tariffs on over 95% of Ottawa's exports to its largest market in Southeast Asia. The Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, CEPA agreement, allows Canada to strengthen its presence in the Indo-Pacific region in line with the strategy that is unveiled by the previous administration under Justin Trudeau. Now, the agreement also provides for the elimination of more than 90% of tariffs on Indonesian imports, a boon to the export of garments and leather goods to the North American market. Simultaneously, a defense cooperation agreement was signed aimed at strengthening collaboration in military training, maritime security, cyber defense, and peacekeeping. Well, as the US president escalated a campaign of legal retribution against political foes, former FBI director and prominent Donald Trump critic James Comey was indicted on 2 criminal counts. The charges came days after Trump took the highly unusual step of publicly urging Attorney General Pam Bondi to take action against Comey and others he sees as enemies. Now, Comey was charged with making false statements and obstruction of justice in connection with the probe he conducted into whether Russia interfered in the 2016 election that Trump won and if Trump colluded with the Russians. If convicted, Comey faces up to 5 years in prison, according to federal prosecutor Lindsay Halligan, who was appointed by Trump just days ago. She is a former personal lawyer to the president who has no experience as a prosecutor. Trump fired Comey in 2017 amid a probe into whether any member of the Trump campaign had colluded with Moscow to sway the 2016 presidential vote. Meanwhile, Trump hailed the indictment, saying Comey is one of the worst human beings this country has ever been exposed to.
They're going to make a determination. I'm not making that determination. I think I'd be allowed to get involved if I want, but I don't really choose to do so. I can only say that Comey's a bad person. He's a sick person. I think he's a sick guy, actually. He did terrible things at the FBI.
Well, US President Donald Trump said that he had signed a proclamation allowing the death penalty to be pursued in certain Washington prosecutions. Now, the move would further expand the Republicans' efforts to seek the mantle of law and order president and to exert power over the nation's capital, whose residents are largely Democrats. Now, Trump declared an emergency, deployed hundreds of National Guard troops and federal law enforcement officials in the nation's capital to supplement local police dealing. City officials have rejected the claim that violent crime rampant, pointing to federal and city statistics that show it has declined since a spike in 2023. Now, Washington has outlawed the death penalty for local crime, but it remains permissible for certain crimes under federal law. Well, U.S. President Donald Trump accused the radical left of fueling violence against immigration and customs enforcement. It came a day after an attack on Dallas field office. A gunman who wrote anti-ICE on an unused bullet fired on an immigration and custom enforcement field office in Dallas from a nearby rooftop on Wednesday, killing a detainee and badly wounding 2 others before taking his own life. Now, Trump and others accused California Governor Gavin Newsom and other Democrats of stirring hate by unfairly vilifying law enforcement and conservative political figures. Also, FBI Director Kash Patel posted a photo on X showing that he said was the suspect's unused ammunition. The shell casing or 1 round was inscribed with anti-ICE.
Radical left rhetoric. The radical left is causing the problem. They're out of control. They're saying things, and they're really dumb people. I mean, I look at Crockett. I look at some of these people. They're very low IQ people, actually. But the radical left is causing this problem, not the right, the radical left. And it's going to get worse, and ultimately it's going to go back on them.
Well, U.S. President Donald Trump vowed on Thursday to stop Israel from annexing the West Bank as he presses to end the Gaza conflict. Speaking to reporters in the Oval Office, Trump said he will not allow key ally Israel to annex the West Bank. Trump made the statement just minutes after updating that he had spoken with Netanyahu ahead of the Prime Minister's planned speech to the United Nations General Assembly.
We've had some really good talks today on Gaza, with both the Middle East representatives and kings and all of the top leaders in the Middle East. And we had also a very good conversation with Bibi Netanyahu, trying to get the hostages back, and we're trying to get the end of the Gaza situation. It's really bad, very bad. And we think it could happen. Maybe it could happen pretty soon. We want the hostages back. We want the bodies back. And we want to have peace in that region. So we had some very good talks.
Well, following the Trump statement on Israel, Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud, who attended the meeting with Trump, said he believes the president understands very well the risks and dangers of annexation in the West Bank.
So what I can say about the meeting with President Trump, which I think was a very important meeting, is that the Arab and Muslim countries made very clear to the president the danger of annexation of any type in the West Bank and the risk that poses not just to the potential of peace in Gaza, but also to any sustainable peace at all. And I feel confident that President Trump understood the position of the Arab and Muslim countries, and I think the president in the US understands very well the risks and dangers of annexation in the West Bank.
Meanwhile, European Council President Antonio Costa on Thursday urged the world leaders at the United Nations to act collectively to confront major crises around the world. Speaking at the UN General Assembly, he called for the unconditional release of hostages and an immediate ceasefire.
Peace in the Middle East requires a collective response, and we need everyone to assume their responsibilities. We must act together and demand the unconditional release of all hostages, an immediate ceasefire, full and unimpeded humanitarian access, an end to illegal settlements, a renewed, credible commitment to a two-state solution.
Well, the year 2025 at the United Nations has proved to be a historic one for Syria as the Syrian head of state addressed the UN General Assembly after almost 60 years. Now, the Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara in his speech said that Syria is returning to the international community after 6 decades. On the third day of general debate at the United Nations, Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas also addressed the UN through a video link. More in this report.
Conflicts in Gaza and Ukraine have taken center stage at the UN General Assembly as world leaders seek solutions to intertwine global challenges in an effort to promote peace and security. On Thursday, Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas addressed the UN General Assembly by video.
We reject Hamas' action on 7 October, which targeted Israeli civilians and took them hostages, because such actions do not represent the Palestinian people of their just struggle for freedom and independence.
On the other hand, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is scheduled to address the United Nations General Assembly on Friday, stated he would condemn recent recognitions by some nations of a Palestinian state.
I will condemn those leaders who, instead of denouncing the murderers, rapists and child burners, want to give them a state in the heart of land of Israel. This will not happen.
French President Emmanuel Macron, who received the 2025 Atlantic Council Global Citizen Award from BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, used the occasion to warn about growing threats to the UN Charter.
If we believe that we live in a global order, we should never accept a double standard. And what is the credibility of the Europeans or others to say it's very important to respect the territorial integrity of the Ukrainians, it's very important to respect the principles of the UN Charter, but not to have a single word for Middle East, not to have a single word for what's happening in Gaza.
French President Macron also met the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in New York on the sidelines of the UNGA. Meanwhile, for Syria, it was a historic day. For the first time since 1967, a Syrian head of state addressed the UN General Assembly. The Syrian President, Ahmad al-Shahara, in his address, pledged to rebuild a Syria that guarantees the rights of all without exception.
Syrian state formed fact-finding committees, and it also gave the United Nations the permission to investigate, and it reached similar results with unprecedented transparency in Syria. I pledge to bring to all justice all those whose hands were stained with the blood of innocents.
Al-Shahara said commissions had been created for transitional justice and to investigate the fate of missing persons, while work is underway towards electing a legislative council. Al-Shahara also pointed to the full restoration of international relations, new regional and global partnerships. He also reiterated Damascus's commitment to the 1974 Disengagement of Forces Agreement. During his stay in New York, the Syrian president met with other world leaders as well. He met with the US President Donald Trump, the Syrian state news agency SANA reported. Besides, he also met with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in New York. The Syrian President Ahmad al-Shahara also met the French President Emmanuel Macron. The theme of the 80th session is Better Together, 80 years and more for peace, development and human rights. The UN General Debate of the 80th session, which opened on the 23rd of September, will conclude on the 29th of September 2025. Fuzail Ahmed reports for DD India.
And Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Thursday accused NATO and the European Union of declaring war against Moscow through their support for Ukraine. Well, speaking at the G20 Foreign Ministers meeting at the United Nations headquarters in New York, the Russian Foreign Minister accused the West as well as NATO and the European Union of provoking the crisis in Ukraine.
Отказ от соблюдения принципов устава.
For decades, numerous crises in Africa have not been resolved, in many cases inherited from colonial times when borders were drawn out arbitrarily without any consideration of ethno-confessional factors. Another clear example is the crisis in Ukraine provoked by the West, which NATO and the European Union have declared a real war on my country and directly in it.
Well, British Foreign Secretary Sveti Cooper slammed Lavrov, denouncing the Kremlin's unprovoked war of aggression. Cooper said the UK and the allies will continue to stand in solidarity with Ukraine.
I see the Russian representative is leaving his seat because he does not want to hear the response to his illegal war of aggression towards Ukraine. Let us be clear, it is an unprovoked war of aggression that is not just a disgraceful assault on Ukraine's security and resilience, it is an assault on the UN Charter's fundamental principles and respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity, and no amount of false fantasy world distortions, misinformation and propaganda from the Russian representative about the causes of the war will convince anyone.
And moving on, Nepal's Election Commission has announced that the collection and updating of the voter roll will continue until mid-November for citizens who turn 18 by March 4th, 2026. Now, the decision was made at the Election Commission's meeting on Thursday following President Ramchandra Paudel's ordinance on voter registration. President Ramchandra Paudel, on the government's recommendation, issued an ordinance to amend the law so as to enroll new voters for the upcoming polls. Due to Rupandehi by-elections, registration of new voters was stopped after June 30th, but with the Amendment of Voters Registration Act, new Nepalese citizens reaching 18 years of age and eligible for voting in March 2026 elections. The interim government has the responsibility of conducting fair elections on March 5th, 2025 to form a new government elected by the people. Now, Election Commission has affirmed that it is fully capable of conducting the elections within the required time frame. And in Peru, at least 14 people died in a traffic accident involving a Bolivian musical group's minivan and 2 cargo trucks on a highway. The crash occurred late on Wednesday near a high-traffic area with poor visibility. Preliminary investigation suggests the minivan collided with a trailer, while a third parked trailer with heavy machinery obstructed the road, according to the local media outlet. Emergency services recovered the bodies and transported the injured to nearby health post. The accident remains under investigation, with police detaining the trailer driver and working to identify all victims and determine the exact cause of the collision. And still to come, DD India News Hour. Russian Deputy Prime Minister meets Prime Minister Modi. Leaders discuss ways to strengthen cooperation in agriculture, fertilizers. From solar power to life, Prime Minister Modi's vision drives India's green growth. LA under tight restrictions after clashes, district remains calm amid shutdown.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khuran, and moving on, Russian Deputy Prime Minister Dmitry Patrushev on Thursday called on Prime Minister Narendra Modi and exchanged views on enhancing cooperation in agriculture, fertilizers, food processing and other areas of mutual interest. Sharing a post on X, Prime Minister wrote, and I quote, "Happy to meet Russia's Deputy Prime Minister Dmitry Patrushev at the World Food India 2025. We discussed ways to strengthen our win-win cooperation in agriculture, fertilizers and food processing," unquote. Also, Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi will launch Bihar's Mukhyamantri Mahila Rozgar Yojana at 11 a.m. IST via video conferencing. During the program, Prime Minister will also directly transfer 10,000 rupees each into the bank accounts of 75 lakh women across Bihar, totaling 7,500 crore rupees. The scheme, an initiative of the government of Bihar, is aimed at making women Atmanirbhar and promoting women's empowerment through self-employment and livelihood opportunities. It will provide financial assistance to one woman from each family in the state, enabling them to start employment or livelihood activities of their choice, thereby fostering economic independence and social empowerment. Now, the launch of the Mukhyamantri Mahila Rozgar Yojana will feature a statewide program across multiple administrative levels in the state, district, block, cluster and village, with over 1 crore women witnessing the program. And the ongoing World Food India witnessing CEO roundtables, technical sessions, exhibitions and multiple business interactions. The event was inaugurated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday in New Delhi. New Zealand and Saudi Arabia are taking part as partner countries. Japan, UAE, Vietnam and Russia participating as focus countries. And here, more in this report.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the 4th edition of the World Food India on Thursday at Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi. Organized by the Ministry of Food Processing Industries, the 3-day event will witness participation of over 90 countries and 2,000 plus exhibitors, with New Zealand and Saudi Arabia taking part as partner countries and Japan, UAE, Vietnam and Russia participating as focus countries. With India's dynamic food processing landscape, the event will serve as a platform for business opportunities, partnerships and collaborations between India and international stakeholders. India has made giant strides in its food processing sector in the past 11 years, and the government is giving special focus on this sector with its targeted schemes and reforms. India is the largest producer of milk, pulses and onions. India is the second largest producer of rice, wheat, sugarcane, tea, fruits, vegetables and eggs. The sector contributes 7.93% of GVA in manufacturing in 2023-24, accounts for 20.4% of India's agri-exports, $7.3 billion FDI equity inflow in the last 1 decade, 100% FDI permitted in food processing, retail trading, including e-commerce. All these statistics show India's rise in food processing sector.
बीते 10 साल में भारत की प्रोसेसिंग कैपेसिटी में 20 गुना वृद्धि हुई है। हमारे प्रोसेस्ड फूड से जुड़े एक्सपोर्ट भी 2 गुने से ज्यादा हो गए हैं। साथियों, फूड सप्लाई और वैल्यू चेन में हमारे किसानों, पशुपालकों और मछुआरों और छोटी-छोटी प्रोसेसिंग यूनिट्स की बहुत बड़ी भूमिका है। बीते 1 दशक में इन सभी स्टेक होल्डर्स को हमारी सरकार ने मजबूत किया है।
In Bharat's vision of a developed India by 2047, World Food India stands as a significant contributor. At a time when the world is grappling with various challenges, including food security, India welcomes global collaboration to make in India and make for the world. Siddharth Bharadwaj's report for DD India.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi has put sustainability at the core of India's growth, from solar leadership to river rejuvenation, afforestation and life movement. India is reshaping its green future and inspiring the world. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya reports for more.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has placed environmental sustainability at the very heart of India's development journey. His vision blends tradition with modern solution, reminding us that real progress cannot come at the cost of nature. On the global stage, he championed the International Solar Alliance, uniting nations for clean energy. Under his leadership, India has pledged net zero emission by 2070 and today ranks among the world's leaders in solar and wind power.
Prime Minister Modi went and made this announcement of the Panchamrit, which is basically the 5 major announcements that India made. And one important part of it is that 50% of our total energy capacity would come from green energy. So that was a major commitment, that 50% would come from non-fossil fuels by the year 2030.
At home, projects like Namami Gange rejuvenate lifelines of the nations, while a strong push for afforestation has taken root through unique initiatives. The most recent Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam calls on every citizen to plant a tree in tribute to their mother. A simple gesture carrying a profound message. Caring for trees is caring for the life itself. In 2021, Prime Minister Modi launched Life Mission, Lifestyle for Environment, urging people to adopt sustainable choices in daily life. From reducing waste to embracing eco-friendly alternatives, the movement echoes India's timeless philosophy of harmony with nature.
The Prime Minister was bringing to a minimum the use of single-use plastic. The whole movement of lifestyle for the environment, LIFE, again was announced globally by the Prime Minister in Glasgow at COP26. A completely brilliant idea which the Prime Minister had.
Through these efforts, Prime Minister Modi has redefined India's environmental narrative, turning challenges into opportunities and positioning the nation as a global leader in green growth and sustainable living. Taposh Bhattacharya's report, TD India.
And moving on, situation in Leh district of Ladakh Union Territory, which is under restrictions since Wednesday, following violent clash between security personnel and protesting youth, remained peaceful as there is no report of untoward incident or violence. Now, all the educational institutions and business establishments across the district remained shut. People remained indoors and roads and highways wore deserted looks as there was minimal traffic seen on the roads. Lieutenant Governor of Ladakh, Kavinder Gupta, on Thursday chaired a high-level security review meeting in Leh to assess the prevailing situation across the Union Territory amid heightened concerns over public safety and recent violent incidents. Member of Parliament for Ladakh, Mohammad Hanifa Jan, visited the injured protesters at SNM Hospital and inquired about their health, emphasized with their concerns and assured them that he would demand a proper inquiry into the matter. He also visited the police chowki colony to meet the arrested protesters. Our Minister of State for Information and Broadcasting, Dr. L. Murugan, concluded his visit to South Korea. The visit strengthened bilateral cooperation in media, entertainment, gaming and digital innovation. India showcased strong creative presence at 30th Busan International Film Festival and Asia Content Market. Bharat Parv and Waves Bazaar showcase Indian culture and creative economy. Dr. L. Murugan held talks with Korean parliamentarians and industry leaders to deepen collaboration in media, AI, blockchain and content protection. India diaspora in Korea was lauded by Dr. Murugan as key partners in engineering bilateral ties. He invited Korean delegation to participate in 56th International Film Festival of India in Goa. And still to come in DD India News Hour. India's pharma reputation glows globally. Dutch officials also show interest in Indian generics. India welcomes the world as PM Modi's message marks grand opening of Para Athletic Championship 2025 in New Delhi. And Day 5 of Shardiya Navratri being celebrated with fervour around the country. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Now. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and on to some business news now. India's reputation as the world's trusted pharmacy is reaching new markets. Following strong signals from Dutch health officials at a major expo in New Delhi, the Netherlands is now looking to import more Indian generic medicines. From the Netherlands, here's our special report.
Here in the Netherlands, Indian generic medicines are gaining ground. With rising concerns over supply shortages and market dependence, Dutch health officials are turning to India, the world's trusted pharmacy for affordable, high-quality drugs. As European countries look to strengthen their medicine supply chains, the Netherlands is turning more and more to India, a global leader in affordable, high-quality generics. With Dutch demand rising and strong government interest, new opportunities are opening up for Indian pharmaceutical companies like Sun Pharma behind me.
There is a increased requirement of chronic medicines, very specialty drugs like oncology and immunology. So India has a strength in generic medicines, in low volume, high value oncology or immunology products. So that's the biggest, I would say, opportunity for India to supply and be a reliable partner for generic medicines. At the same time, any Indian pharma company which want to distribute medicine in Europe, Netherlands can become a gateway for them because of the fantastic road and distribution networks. So that's again one more opportunity for Indian pharma to have a collaboration with the Dutch market.
With one of the highest generic medicines uptakes in Europe, the Netherlands offers a stable and promising market. For Indian companies like Sun Pharma, this is not just about exports, it's about trusted partnerships, meeting high European standards and contributing to accessible healthcare worldwide. What does this growing partnership between India and the Netherlands mean for the future of Indian drug exports to Europe?
Yes, the impact is both way. From the Netherlands perspective, Netherlands is of course seeking to find a strong partner who can supply generic and a biosimilar with a reliable supply chain. And from the Indian perspective, this is the Indian pharma company also have to show commitment that they can be a reliable supplier. For Indian companies also, this is the opportunity to diversify their exports. You know, this can be a really alternative for the exports of the big pharma companies, and Netherlands can function as a European hub or a gateway for the European market.
Mark Limburg reporting from Hoofddorp, the Netherlands, for DD India.
And in a bid to revive companies flagging sales, Starbucks announced that it would close underperforming stores in North America, including its iconic Seattle roastery, as CEO Brian Niccol presses ahead with his restructuring effort, which is expected to cost $1 billion. The coffee chain's overall US and Canada store count is expected to drop by 1% or several hundred stores by the end of 2025 fiscal year. Now, Niccol is trying to restore the chain's coffee house feel to bring customers back to its outlets after 6 consecutive quarters of declining US sales. Talks between Starbucks and the Workers' United Union, which represents over 12,000 baristas, began last April but have hit a wall since. And you're watching DD India News. Our time now for some sports news. A dominant India will aim to continue their unbeaten run when they take on Sri Lanka today in a dead rubber Super 4 encounter in the Asia Cup. The match also gives the men in blue a low-pressure opportunity to rest some of the senior members, including pace spearhead Jasprit Bumrah, ahead of Sunday's summit clash. Now, already qualified India will take on arch rival Pakistan in the final of the Asia Cup on Sunday after Pakistan sealed the final spot by defeating Bangladesh by 11 runs in their Super 4 clash on Thursday. Now, India and Pakistan will face each other in the final of the Asia Cup for the first time ever in the 41-year-long history of the tournament. Well, the opening ceremony of the World Para-Athletic Championship 2025 took place in New Delhi on Thursday. A message from Prime Minister Narendra Modi was read out by Sports Secretary Hari Ranjan Rao. The Prime Minister extended his best wishes to all the participants, highlighting India's pride in hosting this global event for the very first time. Union Sports Minister Mansukh Mandavia declared the World Para-Athletic Championship 2025 open. The Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium will host over 2,200 participants during the championship, which will take place from 27th of September to 5th of October.
This championship is not merely a competition. It is a celebration of unity, inclusivity, and harmony. From 27 September to 5 October 2025, this iconic stadium will be the global stage for para-athletics, where athletes from across the world will compete with courage and conviction.
Well, as the 9-day Hindu festival of Navaratri enters into its 5th day, Devotees thronged to various temples across India to offer prayers to Goddess Durga. The fifth day of Shardiya Navratri 2025 is dedicated to Goddess Skandamata, the fifth form of Goddess Durga. Now, the devotees have been flocking to the Sureshwari Devi temple in Haridwar, Uttarakhand to worship Goddess Durga. Devotees also thronged at Chandewala temple in Delhi to offer prayers. The Adya Katyayani Shakti Peeth temple in Chhatarpur, Delhi was also packed with devotees to offer prayers to Goddess Durga on the fifth day of Navratri. Well, a unique Durga Puja pandal constructed entirely of Rudraksh on the theme of Bahumukhi Teke Ekamukhi was made in West Bengal's Kolkata. The city of joy is known for its unique pandals dedicated to the goddess every year. Navratri is also being celebrated with enthusiasm where people are performing the traditional Garba. People in Gujarat's Morbi participated in Garba with great zeal. Now, people in Surat also participated in Garba enthusiastically. Also, people of Jamnagar enthusiastically joined in the vibrant Garba celebrations, showcasing their love for this traditional Gujarati dance form. Whereas in Tamil Nadu's Thoothukudi, a grand procession by Rudra Dharma Seva Sangam for the Sera festival also took place. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.